BetOnline is your number one source for all your summer sports this season. MLB, golf, NBA, NHL, all your playoff needs are handled in one place. BetOnline. Latest odds and lines, including the most up-to-date team matchups for all your favorite sports. It's all right there at BetOnline. Sit down and head to the website today to get in on the action, or use your mobile device. BetOnline, where the game starts. All right, let's get down to business. An active lifestyle can cause hemorrhoids. That sucks. Lucky for you, there's South of the Border. South of the Border is a holistic approach to dealing with the affected area. Go to southoftheborder.com, use code AHOLE, A-H-O-L-E, get yourself 30% off. That's pretty rad. And this is not an area of your body you want to put bad ingredients in. Make sure you turn to South of the Border. Southoftheborder.com, code AHOLE.
I hope you're ready to have your mind blown with the greatest health and fitness information on the planet.
Yes, bitch!
Welcome to the Mikey Likes You podcast. This is Q&A part 1. Since I got so many excellent questions, I'm going to have to really scour my brain for excellent answers, and that's going to take time. So I'm going to try to game the system and make a million. Holy mackerel, look at that girl's body. I'm going to make a million shows out of it. No, actually started to recognize just by making these little tweaks, because if you're at all familiar with me or my Instagram or this show, you realize like I was complaining and it wasn't necessarily just bitching and moaning, but I was complaining about how I have a hard time really developing any success on this show when I do topics or cover things that I think are important or I find to be interesting. And then I start to develop a lot more buzz, at least digitally or virally, as the kids are saying, when I talk about Ozempic or celebrity bodies or, get ripped quick booty and stuff. Cat, you fucking... That's right. What's up? What's up? What'd you say about my mama? When I talk about things that are hot button topics but aren't necessarily something that I find to be useful, sometimes even kind of dangerous, something I would recommend against, well, I get way more buzz when I talk about it, and that, it can be discouraging. So I did make some tweaks. I had talks with people, and turns out, like, people don't really want 2-hour podcasts. There's anomalies, like Joe Rogan clearly is an anomaly in that regard, but a lot of the really, really popular, really meaningful content creators are making smaller, more impactful, but more well curated and releasing a lot more frequently. So I'm going to start doing that. And I know that this is going to be a long one, so you're going to get a 2-parter, maybe a 3-parter. We'll see how well it goes. Let's get right to it. What do you think of Cam Hanes' approach to fitness? He manages to train for marathons and maintains a fair amount of muscle mass. Is something like this manageable for other people? Yes and no. I like Cam Hanes a lot. Anybody who achieves a lot of stuff, especially someone who's achieves a lot that's really, really, really difficult, you got respect from me, even if it's stuff like I'm not that into, like a family friend of mine, my godfather, he was my best friend's dad growing up. He's since passed, and that was a rough one. Anyway, he had family that was a opera singer, and especially at like 9, I didn't care much for opera, but I was fascinated by her and and listening to her sing. She would sing songs. Just sometimes they would be like at dinner, and the adults would be having wine and stuff, and they'd be like, "Oh, come on, sing," and she would sing, these Italian opera songs and stuff. And I was like, so stuff like I'm not that into. I've always been impressed when I go like, well, that's impossibly difficult. Dancing. People always ask me about Dancing with the Stars, and they like, "Are you embarrassed?" And I was like, "No, I was actually pumped that I got voted off first." And I certainly was very successful in other ways besides dancing. The one thing I was I really was so happy. One, because the people behind the show are so cool, and they let me be goofy. Any of you cat owners out there know exactly what I'm dealing with. Get off! Come on! You have a whole house. Be happy. But some of the dancers, like classically trained dancers, I never really wanted to be, as anyone who saw me dance could tell. I never have any desire to be good at dancing. I genuinely don't. But I am riveted by watching people's bodies move that way, and the amount of training and what must go into being a classically trained, ballet or ballroom dancer is it's stunning to me, and I'm genuinely interested in that. So Cam Hanes, getting back to it, much love to anyone who was interested in trying to live that way. Do I think that's your question is something like this manageable for other people? No. By and large, no. Is something like that manageable for someone who's jacked already and then wants to get into marathon running? Like Mark Bell, I think still looks great, and he's gotten really into marathon. And there's a guy down the street here in the Austin area, Nick Bear Performance Nutrition. He looks, he's way more jacked than me. And he runs pretty consistently long distance stuff and does endurance sports. And I think the question is, can it be done? Of course, these men are living proof. Is it manageable? No. I think that all of the aforementioned men and anyone else who's doing this kind of stuff has to work extraordinarily hard and has to have a pretty I don't know how to put it without it, because they have to have a very particular lifestyle. I just didn't want to think of any word that might even be construed as like, oh, they have to have life easy. No, being a business owner is fucking hard. Being running a supplement company, I know for a fact. I've never done it, but I know I'm close enough to the industry to know. Running a supplement industry and trying to do it with some level of dignity is fucking really hard. And he's working and grinding and stuff, and Cam Hanes works hard. What I am saying, though, is like, is that manageable or even attainable for someone who drives like a UPS truck, for someone who is a waitress, for someone who is a flight attendant, someone who travels a lot? No. Because running marathons alone takes extraordinary effort and a lot of time. A lot of effort, just a lot of elbow grease. Getting jacked and maintaining jackedness takes a lot of time, a lot of elbow grease. Like putting on muscle and being fat is like something you could do as a hobby. It's really not, honestly. Sorry, buff frat guys, but that's not real. Like I grind 24/7. It's no, you don't. You eat a shit ton and you pump iron, and you like to lean into your favorite exercises. Being jacked like all the aforementioned, like Mark Bell, like Cam Hanes, like Nick Bear, and being lean and jacked, it's really hard. It takes so much effort and so much time, elbow grease, So to do both it's extraordinary. Do I think it's manageable? Do I think it's something that you should try to even go after? Probably not. One of the two is great. I think you can run marathons and still have a nice looking physique, because that in and of itself won't get you there. Running marathons, long distance running is not a great way to have a good looking body. It is not. Is that to say that you can't have a good body if you run marathons? No. You just have to make some very strong particular choices, and very prudent ones. People who are jacked and buff and have great bodies don't get that way by running marathons. Is that to say that you can be jacked right now? You're a competitive bodybuilder and you're like, I'm going to run a marathon? No, of course not. You can do both, and you probably look pretty darn good after. But there has to be some real serious choices made. Fernando Patino with an amazing profile picture, but it's a kid, so I don't know if I want to put it up just in case. But it's a kid, looks to be about 8, with a picture perfect Nacho Libre costume on, and he's killing it. Sick hair, mustache. Barbell press or dumbbell press? Well, it depends. Actually, no, it doesn't. Either or. Both are good. I don't know if you mean bench press, like chest press or incline press, or overhead press. Either or, whatever you like better. I overhead press with a barbell. The overwhelming majority of people, especially people who want to go heavy, will do better off with a dumbbell just because of sheer danger. I think more so than the bench press, more so than the incline press, people really don't know how to overhead press and they're going to hurt themselves. So it's pretty easy to isolate the front and medial delts with the dumbbells, and you can go heavy and you get the kind of the nice benefit of like the independent arm strength and balance and stuff. So that one I will say, like, I think probably most people dumbbell, even though I overhead barbell press. But that is an absolute, like, what do you get the most out of? If you're a competitive powerlifter, I would probably say try to keep the bench press in there. But if you're not, if you're just looking to get jacked and be strong, I say what is safest and best for you.
Where'd you get that hat, Mike? It's so dope. I know it is. Melon, Melin. You're out here on your farm in Texas in the humidity, and your head gets funky, but your hat won't. Melin's got you covered. 5 times more durable than any other hat on the market. Waterproof. You drop it while you're fishing. It floats right there on the water. You can wash it when it gets funky, and it'll come right back into shape, just like the day you got it. The most comfortable hat on the market, plus they got tons of different styles and fits. They even have a fit finder right there on the website. They got snapbacks. They come in classic, regular, extra large. Melin very, very rarely offers discounts, but right now you can get 30% off. So head to the website, melin.com/Mikey. Get yourself 30% off. Elevate your hat game and don't let it get in the way of your lifestyle. Melin hats, melin.com/Mikey.
Thierry Gonzalez. When is Murder on the 405 reunion show? Probably never. Everyone lives around the country in like various parts. Real Adam Rust. There is some cardio that I like that seems also anaerobic in nature. I am thinking of things like the rowing machine or cycling class. I do push-pull, leg, rest, split with something doing cardio on rest days. Is it okay to do things like the rowing machine on rest days, or is that messing up muscle recovery? Well, again, depends. If you're doing sprints on a rower for like a good amount, it's really fucking up your recovery, especially if you're doing push-pull legs and maybe trying to do that each of those twice a week. Yeah, don't do that. Don't do that if you want to get gains in either muscle or conditioning. This is where I get into a lot of trouble. And I don't want to say a lot of trouble because I always will back up what I say. This is where a lot of people misinterpret where I'm going. Because they go like, I've been training way more than you're programming me, or way more than you recommend I train. And I go like, yeah, because you train like a bitch. It's much better to, I would say, train 3, maybe 4 days a week. But just be going 45 minutes at a time, really complex movements, and push yourself. Really challenge yourself. 5, 6 working sets for big body parts. 2, 3 working sets, maybe, 3 to 5, maybe for smaller muscles like arms. Because you're opening up the ability for then to go and do other things and not have yourself just hit a wall, right? I do sprint workouts twice a week, sometimes 3. I do sprint workouts twice a week, either uphill or flat sprinting. I do 1 long distance, purely aerobic workout. That's for health, more so than anything. And I do 3 or 4 weight training workouts a week. I also like to train jiu-jitsu as much as I possibly can. Now, if I were to train for a competition in jiu-jitsu, I probably would have to pull back on most everything else. If I were to really look at maximizing muscle size, I would have to pull back on my conditioning. And I would probably start training more frequently with more volume. When I'm like this and it's May and I'm like preparing for August, I'm not doing a bodybuilding show, but I'm getting leaner because I know shirt off all day weather's coming. So right now, once a year, I make that decision where it's like, I'm not going to gain weight and I'm not going to be pissy when I lose weight, because I know that this weight I'm losing is going to be body fat and water. And I'm going to get shreddy. So I'm not training very frequently, but when I am, I'm lifting heavy. I'm lifting heavier, and I'm not going as deep into rep ranges, and I'm trying not to accrue as much fatigue. Maybe around Christmas time, when it's like my shirt off will see nobody except for my wife, occasionally my daughter, and my farm animals. I'll say like, yeah, let's try to add some carbs and calories, get a little beefy. But I never also. I'm 45, and so I recognize that. And it's like, how much more muscle do I really need or want? Because at this point in my life, I'm not ever considering doing any type of physique sport. What I am trying to do is be muscular, lean, and healthy for as long as I possibly can. And certain level of body fat is healthy to me, and seems to be something that leads to longer lifespan and quality of life. So does a certain amount of muscle. And I feel like I've achieved that. So I work in maintenance. If you're 20 and you're like, I want to be jacked, I don't think rowing circuits on your day off is a good idea. It's just going to compromise. You're not going to get any noticeable increase in your conditioning. And if you're eating in a surplus to gain muscle, what's the fucking point? Because no fat loss is coming. And if you're training push-pull legs, I would have to assume you want to be jacked. So you're only compromising your recovery, and you are definitely not achieving any positive aspects of doing anaerobic threshold stuff. Now, if you want to do push-pull legs, or if you're looking to get jacked, you're looking to put on muscle, even if you're eating in a caloric surplus and you want to do long distance, very low intensity stuff, I totally support it. I've always found that to be not only perfectly healthy for you, but not only does it not compromise recovery, it increases it. Staying in that aerobic world, that zone 1, zone 2, and doing it for long periods of time, much different than like a rowing circuit or like an Airdyne bike circuit or something. I do those things, okay? I told you, I do two sprint workouts a week, 2 conditioning workouts a week. And then I have 1 long, slow one. But I do them for very particular reasons. To increase my threshold and also body fat loss. And I'm eating in a deficit. So you got to weigh everything has to be weighed out. Who's in your top 5 bodied up musicians list? Danzig, Doyle Rollins, Iggy, Kiedis, 50 Cent, LL Cool J, that oiled up saxophone guy from Lost Boys. Who you got? I will say probably Doyle's the only one you named. Oh no, of course Rollins and Doyle are the 2 that you named that I agree with. Danzig's never been lean enough for me to be like body, because like Danzig lifts. Danzig probably at some point in his life was like really strong and certainly achieved a level of muscle mass. That alone does not make me go like, look at that guy. Wow. Fuck that. Greg Puciato, formerly of Dillinger Escape Plan, R.I.P., one of the greatest bands of all time in my opinion, but it's very particular type of music. I understand it's not for everybody. But Greg from Dillinger Escape Plan, and now Better Lovers, that guy's jacked. Ripped. Jacked. Brandon Chipetti, I remember. I think that's how you pronounce his name. I know it's Brendan from Bleeding Through. He actually owns a gym, I believe, in Orange County. And yeah, that guy always was in great shape. Looked really good. Matt, M. Shadows from Avenged Sevenfold. Really healthy, strong, muscular, good-looking guy. I can't avoid females. Shakira, especially at her age now, like she's bulletproof. I know a lot of women prefer more of a statuesque look. You know, she's a little lady, but dude, that body, come on now. A lot of females I see more so in front of the camera than the music world, but J-Lo more now than ever before, in my opinion. Because J-Lo, like 30-year-old J-Lo, when she was when most people would see her at her peak, I was like, of course she's an attractive woman, but I never like thought like J. As a 50-something-year-old woman, I fantasize about J-Lo. So, I don't know if that says a bit more about me or if she just really is becoming that much more beautiful. Yeah, so there you go. I think that's a pretty solid list. I could give or take their music, but you got to give love to Kiedis, especially now still. Like, he's still in I take my shirt off level. Iggy is a genius, and I love him. I literally worship the ground he walks on from an artistic standpoint, Iggy Pop. But you can't be that thin, even though he was always ripped. Iggy was always ripped. You can't be that thin and get love from me physique-wise. There has to be some attempt to be, like, macho. I love you all. Thank you, BetOnline. Thank you to all my sponsors. And in this crazy mixed-up world that makes you think that nobody cares, remember, I do.